A Regina infant has undergone a long-awaited heart transplant in California. The operation on Taylor Entwistle took place Saturday, more than 2 months after Taylor and his parents traveled to the Loma Linda Medical Center. Taylor's father, Trevor, says the baby's growing muscles are choking off blood from his lungs, resulting in low blood pressure. As a result, the 13-week-old baby, who was born with a defective heart, remains in critical condition. Damage is expected to hit several $100,000 after fire swept through a strip mall in Regina yesterday. Regina police say at least 6 businesses were completely destroyed by the blaze. No one was hurt and a cause has not been determined. The strip mall is located in the 600 block of 4th Avenue. Federal Safety Board officials are investigating a plane crash Saturday afternoon which killed 2 people about 30 kilometers north of Calgary. A woman and a man died after their light plane clipped a radio tower and plunged into a field. RCMP say the plane was en route to Edmonton and lost its way in heavy fog. The victims are believed to be from Calgary. The search continues off the East Coast for survivors of 3 ships that disappeared after a vicious Atlantic storm. A total of 47 people are missing. Christine Osmond has details of the rescue effort.
This helicopter headed for its refueling point at Sable Island at 4 this morning. The first rescue involved an injured man from the American fishing vessel Enterprise. He had suffered severe head injuries after falling against the chart table during a fierce winter storm that raged for 2 days. He was first flown to a doctor on Sable Island. The helicopter then headed out to sea again, this time for an injured sailor from the Japanese fishing vessel Maru 3. He is one of 2 men injured during the storm early yesterday. A second man died. The helicopter is now en route to CFB Shearwater. Earlier today, search and rescue officials downgraded the search for 39 crew members of 2 cargo ships. The Capitan Torres and the Joanna B went down early Friday in the Gulf of St. Lawrence.
It's been 2.5 days of searching for people on that. It's just been determined that as a result of the weather, the temperature, and what has gone on, that the searches for those has been downgraded.
Meanwhile, the search for 7 missing crew members from the Nova Scotia fishing vessel Johnny and Sisters 3 out of Shelburne has been intensified. The vessel went down yesterday 200 kilometers south of Newfoundland. So far, 1 body is being recovered, but there's no sign of any survivors. At Halifax Search and Rescue, I'm Christine Osmond.
Security is back to normal at a nuclear power station in New Brunswick after terrorist threats were made against an unidentified power station. A Spanish-speaking man was arrested Thursday in Maine. He told police he was part of a convoy headed to Canada to sabotage a nuclear power station. Police took the threat seriously because of Monday's court appearance of 5 South Americans charged with plotting to break 2 drug smugglers out of jail. The threat turned out to be a hoax. For the first time in 41 years, Czechoslovakia has a government free from communist domination. Today, hardline President Gustav Huzák swore in the new coalition government, made up of 10 communists and 11 non-communists. We have a report from ABC News.
It wasn't until opposition leader Václav Havel reached the balcony today that Czechoslovakia realized how much had been won in their 3-week revolution. People were amazed to hear the list of government jobs given to men backed by Civic Forum. Foreign Minister, Finance Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, in fact, nearly half the posts in the cabinet. But their delight was greatest at hearing that control of the secret police will be shared by a Civic Forum man. The man in question, Jan Chernogorsky, was in prison only 2 weeks ago, but today was shaking hands with the communist president, who swore him in and then himself resigned. Another former inmate is the new foreign minister.
Do you still feel like a dissident?
I always refused this work. I always thought that they were dissidents. And now...
It was Havel who led the negotiations for the new cabinet, in which the communists are a minority.
And I have today the same hope which I had when I was in a prison.
There is still one question he won't answer.
What happened? Will you become president now, sir?
No, I don't know.
But for a movement grown accustomed to getting what it wants, Havel is the only choice. It is the nation's parliament that chooses the president, a parliament that was put into place before all the changes, which means that it is still mostly communist. They have the votes to block a Havel presidency. Whether they have the will after a day like this one is a different question. John Donovan, ABC News, Prague.
Meanwhile, polls indicate communists are likely to lose their foothold in elections being held today in the Soviet republics of Estonia and Latvia. Moscow is likely watching closely since Latvia and Estonia are the first of 15 Soviet republics to hold municipal elections, allowing voters a choice of candidates. Meanwhile, in East Germany, tens of thousands of demonstrators demanded more democratic reforms today. A state-run labor union urged workers to defy a 40-year-old policy that forbids them from striking. The United States is attempting to improve relations with China. Two special U.S. envoys visited Chinese leaders in Beijing this weekend, the first such high-level American officials to do so since the Tiananmen Square massacre 6 months ago. We have a report from David Ensor.
General Scowcroft's visit to China clearly delighted Deng Xiaoping and other Chinese leaders who have complained bitterly about U.S. sanctions imposed after they crushed China's pro-democracy movement. But the decision to send Scowcroft left the Bush administration with some explaining to do. The president waved off questions this morning, leaving it to his Secretary of State.
I don't think that the American people would want to see their government compound the tragedy that happened in Tiananmen Square, and it is our judgment. It is the president's judgment and the administration's judgment that that's what might happen if we seek to isolate China from the rest of the international community.
Critics charge that by dropping its demand that China clean up its human rights record before relations could be improved, the Bush administration is kowtowing to Beijing.
It makes a mockery of the administration's own policy of suspending high-level meetings with the Chinese.
It's a double standard, it's contradictory, it's inconsistent, and it makes America look very in some ways almost weak, because we're doing what the regime wants us to do. And this is not a particularly good regime that we want to do what they tell us to do.
Administration officials knew the Scowcroft trip would be controversial, but they believe an improved relationship with China would help stabilize the region and give the U.S. added diplomatic leverage with Soviet bloc nations.
To the great Chinese people and to U.S.-Chinese friendship. Gambay.
Administration officials say now that President Bush has made the first move as demanded by China, it's up to the Chinese leadership next to make some gesture on human rights as a signal that they want the dialogue with the U.S. to go further. David Ensor, ABC News, Washington.
Here at home, Saskatoon police credit the Crime Stoppers program for a continued drop in criminal offenses. As we hear in this week's edition of Crime Stoppers, community support is the key to the program's success.
Crime Stoppers wishes to thank the Saskatoon media, the Saskatoon police, and the citizens of Saskatoon for helping to put Crime Stoppers over the $1 million mark in crime solved. Crime Stoppers has been in operation in Saskatoon for 3 years, and there's no doubt that it's partially responsible for the decline of major crime occurrences in our city. In our short 3-year history, Crime Stoppers has had 265 arrests and cleared 609 cases. The total amount of stolen property recovered, illegal drugs seized, and solved losses due to arson, vandalism, and frauds totals $1,062,427. For all this, only $11,400 in awards has been paid out. Crime Stoppers continues to encourage your support. You don't have to reveal your identity, and you don't have to go to court. Remember, Crime Stoppers will receive your information on any unsolved crime in Saskatoon by calling 931-TIPS. That's 931-8477. Be a Crime Stopper. Please call.
In sports, the Classic final tonight, Packet and Ritzik.
And very cold weather tonight.